All right, I believe that we are live now. Hello. Today, what I wanted to do for October spooky content, we are going to look at this list that Goodreads put out for their horror week. Um, Hi, it's Bear. That's what we're doing today. This video idea came from my friend Heather, where she suggested I just like react to a best of horror list, and that's what I have decided to do today. If you're here, say hello in the chat so I can see you and know you're hanging out with me today. Let's see. I'm gonna put the link on Twitter and then we're gonna get into the actual meat of this live. Alright, the tweet is sent out. Awesome. Cool. Okay, I see people are watching, so say hello if you're hanging out. Um, if you're just now tuning in, what I said was what we're going to do today, I'm going to go over this article that Goodreads put out this month that's the most popular horror novels of the past 5 years. I think it'll be really interesting to see what's on here. We're going to see if I agree or disagree, if I have any like pressing thoughts and feelings on any of the books. If I think they're crap, I'll let you know if I think they're crap. And if I think you should read them, I will let you know whether you should read them. Okay, so we're just going to read the article together. I screen shared it, so hopefully you can see it. Let me know if it's popping up for y'all. All right. Here we go. Lucky us. We're in the midst of a bona fide horror renaissance. The genre has a way of graphically addressing our most deeply held anxieties, and the last 5 years have been anxiety inducing enough to make readers find solace in the terrifying. Biggest horror heavy hitters of the last 5 years, sorted by year and ranked by popularity among Goodreads members and average star rating. Nothing below a 3-star average made the cut. Since 2016, have been consuming anti-racist Lovecraft retellings, claustrophobic cave horror, dark Scooby-Doo riffs, and everything in between. And since this year isn't over yet, the year selection are based on the top-rated books so far in 2021. Then it says you can like add them to your want to read shelf and scroll over the cover so you can learn about each book. So let's take a look and see what's in 2018. Um, Actually, before we scroll up, I want to do predictions for this. I think that the like Goodreads Choice Awards nominees for horror are obviously going to be on here to some extent. So I think that Year of the Witching is going to be on here. I think that Mexican Gothic is probably going to be on here. I think that the Only Good Indians is going to be on here. Some of these I put in the thumbnail. I just kind of guessed at what was going to be in here. Um, What else? It said Lovecraft Country is going to be in here. Meddling Kids is going to be in here. Dark Cave Horror. I think that can probably. The only one that's coming to mind is The Luminous Dead. Um, what else do I think? What's been popular this year? I think Tender is the Flesh is also going to be on here. So let's scroll down. Okay, number one, The Butterfly Garden. I have heard that this is very good. I don't actually know what it's about. Oh no, that sounds. I don't like that. um, Who of my friends has read this book? I feel like maybe Allie has read this book. Allie from Hardback Quarter. Near an isolated mansion lies a beautiful garden. In this garden grows luscious flowers, shady trees, and a collection of precious butterflies. Young women who have been kidnapped and no. I don't like kidnapping stories, but I do like cult stories, and I like things that are set with like spooky houses and creepy gardens. I think I mentioned that in my favorite tropes video. So like, is this gothic horror? I've heard this is gory, right? So like, I don't know. Let's see. I'm thinking of ending things is on my want to read shelf, but I don't actually want to read it anymore. Uh, I've heard really bad things about this book. Novel follows a couple in the midst of a twisted unraveling of a dark unease. You will be scared, but you won't know why. I feel like I've heard either sides of the spectrum for this. I've heard like a few people say it's fantastic and they loved it and it really creeped them out, and then a majority of people that I've talked to, I've heard is like utter garbage. There's a film adaptation though that I've heard is a lot better than the book. Might be a controversial opinion, but I have heard that. The Fireman by Joe Hill. I'm gonna go ahead and say I have like zero interest in reading anything by Joe Hill. Um, Nosferatu, I think, is the only one that sounded remotely interesting to me, but none of his synopses ever sound like anything that I would like. A worldwide pandemic of spontaneous combustion? Ew. No. I don't know. I feel like a lot of Joe Hill's plots, at least the way that the synopsis make them sound, are like things I've heard a million times, and I get that there's no such thing as an original idea, but like maybe like Nosferatu and Horns are the only two I'm actually interested in reading. And then we have The City of Mirrors. I've never heard of this one. I have no idea what this is. Okay. The world we knew is gone. What world will rise in its place? The 12 have been destroyed, and the terrifying 100-year reign of darkness that descended upon it, the world has ended. What is this? Okay. Um, the survivors are stepping outside their walls, determined to build society anew and daring to dream of a hopeful future. The dead metropolis, the first father of the 12. Is this like a. This sounds like zombie Christian fiction. I don't know if that's accurate, but this sounds like legitimate, like, Christian fiction. Okay, I mean, like, it sounds compelling. Do I add it to my want to read shelf? Let's do that. Save it for later because I kind of want to dig more on that one. And while we're here, we can take you off the shelf because I don't want to. No, come on. How do I take you off? Can I just like click you and then you go off? I'll take you off later. Okay. Let's see what else is on here. Okay, I have read a couple of these. I read Lovecraft Country earlier this year, and I thought it was really good. Um, it scared me a lot. I think that the movie, or not the movie, the television show was a lot better vehicle for the story than the book. Um, I thought the book was fine. It was good and it was scary. Um, I don't know. I feel like I don't have as much to say about it now as I did when I first read it in like spring. But there were some changes made for the adaptation that I didn't understand. Like D, the child, the daughter, was originally a boy in the book. I didn't know quite why we changed it from the get go. Um, I will say I think that the film, I keep saying film. I'm sorry, the adaptation, the television show, um, the scene with the dolls, the episode with like the Flopsy and Mopsy like following D around was a lot scarier in the television show than it was in the book. But the book, it had like a different kind of creepy vibe. Yeah, I would say like read the book if you're really interested in it, but I think that the television show was a better vehicle for it. Next, My Best Friend's Exorcism. I have an unpopular opinion about this book and about this author in general. I read My Best Friend's Exorcism a few days ago, actually. I finished it earlier this month. I buddy read it with my friend Deirdre, and have a I don't want to say it's a problem, but like it's a thing that I keep noticing in Grady Hendrix books, where like I don't like the way that he discusses black people. Um, or it's not that. Let me reword that. There's something about the way that he writes people of color in his books, or like discusses people of color in general, that just tends to rub me the wrong way. Um, I am only echoing what I have seen said by people from those communities. I mentioned it in my review of Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Um, and it was also noticeable in My Best Friend's Exorcism. Like I said, I buddy read it with my friend Deirdre. I'll leave her review linked in the description at the end of this live, so make sure you go check it out. But there were just like I wanted to like this because it was like an 80s version of Jennifer's Body, and I thought it was scary. I liked things that Grady Hendrix did in the books, but like I am a firm believer that like you don't have to include like racism or homophobia or ableism in things to make them historically accurate. I've never thought that. I don't think it's like, oh, we can say this ableist slur because it's like that's what they said in the 80s. I've never vibed with that. And that's something that I've noticed Grady Hendrix does quite a bit in his stuff. At least the two books that I've read. Um, let's see. The Ballad of Black Tom, I have been wanting to read for a while. I read The Changeling by Victor Laval, which I hope is on this list. I think I put it in the thumbnail, actually. I've heard this one's very good, though. Let's see. Let's get you a plot synopsis right quick. Okay. People move to New York looking for magic, and nothing will convince them there isn't. Charles Thomas Tester, Hufflepuff, food on the table, keeping the roof over his father's head. From Harlem to Flushing Meadows to Red Hook, he knows what magic a suit can cast, the invisibility a guitar case can provide, and the curse written on his skin that attracts the eye of the wealthy white folks and their cops. But when he delivers an occult tome to a reclusive sorceress in the heart of Queens, Tom opens the door for a deeper realm of magic and earns the attention of things best left sleeping. This one sounds really good. I really like dark, magical, kind of like bordering on fantasy, like dark fantasy things set around New York City. I visited New York City when I was younger, and I think that it's a perfect setting for like the wild, weird stuff going on. And what was the other book? The Changeling by Victor Laval was also set in New York City, so I definitely think that like that's a setting that he works well in. I don't know if he's from New York City, but like he writes it very well. Next we have Things We Lost in the Fire. I almost picked this one up. I think like a year ago because I really like the cover. Let's see. Contemporary Argentina. To vibrant life is a place where shocking inequality, violence, and corruption are the law of the land, while military dictatorship and legions of Shirley Jackson. Julio Cortázar. Three young French distract themselves with drugs and pain in the midst of government-enforced blackout. This one sounds interesting, but I picked it up because I thought the cover was pretty. I did not actually know what it was about. This is a really long synopsis. Let's see. I'm not looking at the other books, I promise. Alongside the black magic and disturbing disappearances, stories fueled by compassion for the frightened and the lost. This one sounds like a good time. Is it a short story collection, though? Oh, yeah, it is. It says stories right there. So we're going to add to want to read shelf. Let's see. Hey, it looks like there's more people in the live. So say hello if you are hanging out here. Let's see. LOL, the best crossover. We're watching the first movie with Halle Berry. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Okay. Next line. I see right off the bat we have Darcy Coates, who I have never read, but I've heard very good things about. I don't know the plot of any of her books, but I've heard great things about Darcy Coates from my friends who. A lot of booktubers that I follow got like a Darcy Coates PR package. Gosh, these synopses are so long. We're gonna scroll back up. A lot of my booktube people that I watch got PR packages for Darcy Coates books, and a lot of them were like, "I've never read a Darcy Coates book, but now I have all of them, so I'm gonna read them." There's something wrong with Ashburn House. The ancient building has been subject to rumors for close to a century. Its owner Edith refused to let guests inside and rarely visited the nearby town following her death. A surviving relative inherits the property. She has no possessions, but she has a pet cat. Doesn't believe in ghosts. So it's a haunting. It's the haunting of Ashburn House. It's ghosts. I think I said in a video earlier this month that I don't tend to like ghost horror books because it's never a ghost, right? It's hardly ever a ghost in the book. It's usually like an entity or a demon or a spooky whatever, you know what I mean? It's never actually a ghost. So I tend to avoid like scary ghost books. I like fluffy ghost books. I like romancy ghost books, but I get sick of people saying like, "Oh, it's haunted, it's a ghost," and it turns out to be like a demon or like a monster or something instead of an actual ghost. Right, next we have Fellside, which I have never heard of. Um, a maximum security. Where'd it go? A maximum security prison on the edge of Yorkshire moors. Jess Molson could be spending the rest of her life. Even the walls whisper, and one voice belongs to a little boy with a message for Jess. Okay, that doesn't tell me much about the book, but I've never heard of this. I've never seen this anywhere. If you've read this, let me know if you liked it. Um, it's got like 12,000 ratings, so surely someone I'm subscribed to has has read this. Sorry, I'm late. You're not late. We're not that far into it. Thank you for coming though. Okay, next we have The Fisherman by John Langan. I read this one over the span of a little bit. I think I read this over the span of like 3 weeks this year, and I really, really liked it. Um, so we're gonna give you. There is the Goodreads synopsis if you want to read it. I would rather give you my own synopsis. Follows two men who are widowers. Their wives have recently died, and they decide that they're going to go like fishing. So they have like time out and away from everyone that they can just like not think for a little bit. And they find out about this new fisherman spot called Dutchman's Creek. So that's like part one of the book. Part two of the book is this restaurant owner because they go to a diner like before they go fishing. Part two is a story that the diner owner is telling them about like Dutchman's Creek and the settlement that was originally there, and how there was this man called Dare Fisher, and he was kind of like a dark magic-y person. And basically, throughout the throughout the years in this area, men's wives have died, and then like black magic, like necromancy, dark, stuff like that happens. It's another one that I would consider kind of like an eldritch horror. I think it's considered cosmic horror, but I did enjoy it, and I gave it 4 stars because I thought it was a little draggy. But it reminds me of like my grandpa's fishing stories because it was just like long and drawn out. Let's see. Let's read the chat. People will say diversity and representation isn't needed, but won't say anything about homophobia or ableism. Like that seems to be okay with that versus the former is what I'm getting at. Let's see. I think I get what you mean. I think it's like people will say like, "Oh, you don't have to have like diverse characters. Like you don't need representation in books," but then like not point out like homophobia or ableism or racism in the text. Is that what you're talking about? I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Because I have seen people who do that. They say like, "Oh, it's not important," and then they just like don't acknowledge anything wrong with the text. And I want to make it clear, since we're on this topic right now, that there's a difference between like a character being homophobic or saying something racist or ableist and the author writing that into the text. Like I always feel like this is like a tricky subject to talk about, but I think that if it's challenged in the text, like you can have a character say something shitty. But if another character comes in and like says, "Hey, that shitty," like calls them out, and you address it in the text, that's where I think it's better handled than just having it like unchecked. Because that's one thing I always try and point out in books. Whenever no one points out the fact that like racism or homophobia or ableism or anything like that goes unchecked, then that's a problem with me. And I don't like whenever authors write it in, but I don't mind as much whenever it's just like a shitty character doing shitty things and having shitty beliefs because it's clear that that character is shitty. Does that like are we on the same page with that? Okay. Disappearance at Devil's Rock. I have heard great things about Paul Tremblay. He's a very popular author. I read one Paul Tremblay earlier this year and I did not like it. Um, This Cabin at the End of the World. I always want to say Cabin at the End of the Woods, and I did not like it. I read that for Patreon, and I don't know, it was a little rambly for me. So I've been wanting to read more of Paul Tremblay's stuff to see if it's just as like long-winded and rambly as long-winded as all of these synopses are. Oh my goodness. Okay, I can't scroll all the way down. Family is shaken to the core after the mysterious disappearance of a teenage boy in this eerie tale, blend of literary fiction, psychological suspense, and supernatural horror. Elizabeth Sanderson reveals or receives news that her 14-year-old son Tommy has vanished. No one's giving answers. She has a young daughter, Kate. His friends are not telling them the whole truth. Okay, we're gonna scroll, but I'm not looking at the other books. I promise. Oh my gosh, why is it so long? I'm covering them so you can see that I don't see. Um, Kate and the other residents see like a ghost, like a shadow peering through their windows at night. Random pages of the journal appear. Okay, see, this is what I mean. There's a lot going on here, and I feel like in the Paul Tremblay book that I read earlier this year, there was a lot going on, and it could have been like cinched in a little bit. We could have had like half of the plot. Like, I feel like things that I hear about Paul Tremblay's stuff um, would work better in like a novella form. Oh, I did not mean to click on that, so we're gonna back out. Do you have any recommendations for horror books for people that don't usually read much horror? I do have a video planned coming later in the month where I talk about like introductory horror, but I think that a good introductory horror um, would be like middle grade. I feel like middle grade stuff is scary enough that you get like the horror that you need. So books like Hide and Seeker, They Threw Us Away, maybe Coraline if you haven't read it. I would say go with middle grade horror, or just take whatever you already read and add horror to it. Like if you read romance books, then you can read like a paranormal spooky romance. If you read like science fiction books, then read something that's horror and sci-fi. I feel like a lot of people like to think of horror as like this disconnected genre from everything else. And if you just take what you already read and then like add horror to it, then it's so much easier to get into it. Um, so if you let me know what genres you usually read, then maybe I can give you some recommendations that way. I feel the same about Joe Hill. I'm kind of over the hype. I never got the hype in the first place, but I was just never interested in any of his books. Okay, we're moving on to 2017, finally. 20 minutes and we're moving on to the next year. Stephen King and Owen King, Sleeping Beauties. We know my thoughts about Stephen King. I have very little interest in reading anything by Stephen King. Um, I think that has to do with the fact that everything that was older by him that I read was just like chock full of like the Indian burial ground trope was one of his favorite things to use. I feel like a lot of the homophobia in his books went unchecked, like I was talking about earlier. Um, I don't know how his recent stuff is because I haven't given it a chance because I started with his older stuff like everyone says you should do and never really got into anything he's published past like it. I think I read like Carrie, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, Misery, It. I read a bunch of his short stories. I just have not had any interest in reading anything past like anything his new stuff. Come on, let's get the synopsis back up. Okay, future so real it might be now. Something happens when women go to sleep. They become shrouded in a cocoon like gauze. Oh, the women become feral. Okay, this kinda sounds interesting. Like a little interesting. I talked about it earlier in the month, but I have like a sleep disorder where I have nightmares every night. So any horror books involving sleep always tend to freak me out. Um, I don't like whenever people do this like something is happening to one gender and not the other because I'm just like, oh well, what about like non-binary people? What about trans people? Are trans people included? Like I don't know. It just always it's like a disconnect from reality for me a little bit. Okay, next we have Wendy's Button Box. I did not know that this was horror. My Barnes and Noble does not shelve this in the horror section. I've always seen it in like the science fiction section, which you can be both. But I did not even know that this counted as horror. Um, Castle Rock, Maine, Castle Rock, Pleasant Road, Suicide Stairs. Okay, another long synopsis. At the top of the stairs, Gwendy catches her breath and listens to the shouts of the kids on the playground. Aluminum Bat, a stranger calls to Gwendy, "Hey girl, come on over here for a bit. We ought to palaver, you and me." He's wearing black jeans, a black coat, and a white shirt, wearing a hat. This doesn't tell me much about the actual plot of the book, but apparently it's a novella. So we're gonna move on to the next one because, like I said, I'm not really interested in anything that Stephen King writes. Okay. Next we have The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell, which has been recommended to me by a couple of people. I've never read any. Have I read anything by Laura Purcell? I know I've heard her name mentioned a lot. This one, I think, has to do with dolls. Okay, right here it says, when newly widowed Elsie was sent out to see her pregnancy at her late husband's crumbling country estate, the bridge agreed to her as far from the life of wealth and privilege she was expecting. She meets a man who believes destined for a life of luxury. Her husband was dead. Da, da, da. She has only her husband's awkward cousin for company. She goes to a locked door. There's a painted wooden figure that bears a striking resemblance to Elsie herself. They're terrified of the figure. Figure's eyes start to follow her. A Victorian ghost story that evokes the most unsettling kind of fear. This is a tale that creeps its way through the consciousness in ways you least expect. So I am intrigued by this and also not intrigued by this at the same time because I like the gothic energy that we have here. I'm very scared by mannequins. I'm creeped out by them. However, like I said earlier, I'm not a ghost story person. Okay, read a lot of mysteries, fantasy, and sci-fi. If you want to message me on Twitter, we can talk more there. Um, Horror, science fiction. I haven't read it yet, but The Luminous Dead, 172 Hours on the Moon. I've heard both of those are good, and both of those are very like popular. I think very accessible science fiction horrors. Um, Dark fantasy, Year of the Witching, which I am currently reading. Mystery, I will have to get back to you on that. I'm reading The Shining and almost finished. It's my first King, and it's not what I expected. I heard that The Shining is not a good King to start out with. I started out with, I think, The Girl Who Loved. No, I started out with The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and then after that went on to like the rest of the stuff that I read. Meddling Kids by Edgar Quintero. This one I have DNF'd like 4 times, and there's something about it that I just like keep holding out hope for it. This is like I need to read this one. I need to finish this one. Um, so it is a historical fiction novel that is like kind of a riff on Scooby Doo. Teen detectives. Basically, now they're all like in college or like around college age. Right here it says they're 25. One's wanted in 2 states. One is bartending in New York with a drinking problem. Um, there's a excited little dog named Tim who's like a descendant from the original dog that they like solved the crime with. Um, Nate has spent the last 13 years in and out of mental hospitals, and then the other one, I believe, committed suicide. So trigger warnings for all of those things. But basically, this book follows them as they are coming back to the site of the first mystery that they solved, and trying to figure out like, were they right? Like, was it actually a man in a costume, or was it something deeper and darker? I've DNF'd it like 4 times. I don't know. There was something about it that just was not holding my attention as much as I wanted it to. But I do plan on finishing it. I said if I didn't finish it by 2021, no, not by 2021. It's 2021 now. I said if I didn't finish it by 2022, I was going to unhaul it. So I'm gonna try and stick to that. Into the Drowning Deep. I 100% believe that this deserves to be on here. Mira Grant / Shauna Maguire is amazing. This book scared the shit out of me. Like, terrified me. I believe I have a full standalone review video for Into the Drowning Deep on my channel. I think I do. Basically, it's a science fiction horror. This is another one that I would recommend to the person asking for science fiction horror. Science fiction horror where people, it's a research team that's going to the Mariana Trench to see if they can discover killer mermaids, and they're filming like a documentary sort of situation because in the past years, another voyage set out to film a mockumentary about mermaids in the Mariana Trench, and then they ran into like the real killer mermaids. They thought it was just going to be like some dumb, cheesy sci-fi thing that they were going to like dress up in costumes for, and then they all got murdered. I loved this book. I thought that the representation for autistic people in this book was really good. The autistic character in this really like aligned with the way that my autism like manifests itself. I thought it was fantastic. I've reread it like 3 times. It's good. It's scary. It's a little gory. It was a good one. Then we have The Changeling by Victor Laval. I'm very glad that that's on there. You also said you wanted horror fantasy. I would recommend The Changeling for horror fantasy. Um, I thought that this one was very good. It's about a man and his wife who have a baby, but the baby's not actually a baby. It's like a changeling. So the wife kills the baby and runs away. And then the husband is trying to go like find his wife and his child that was like stolen by the fairies because they've been like stalked by fairies. There's good like dark fantasy elements to this. I thought it was fantastic. I've recommended it so many times this month already. I'll probably recommend it a couple more times before this month is over. And as you can see, I gave this one 4 stars. The one thing that stopped me from giving it 5 was that I found that it meandered a little bit. Okay, Joe Hill, Strange Weather. I think this is a short story collection. I've seen it in the discount section at Barnes& and Noble. Yeah, it's a collection of 4 chilling novels. Snapshots, the story of Silicon Valley teenager. Pulling a camera that erases memories. First parachute jump and winds up as a castaway on an impossibly solid cloud. The clouds open up, nails start to rain. That's weird. That sounds interesting. Maybe I'll pick this one up. I did not really know much about this one, but it sounds interesting. And I'm a sucker for a good short story collection. So we're gonna want to read you right quick. You're coming home with me, as the meme says. Let's see. Craven Manor by Darcy Coates. I didn't realize that Darcy Coates was as popular as she is, but apparently, I mean, if she's making all these years on the Goodreads list, then maybe I should check her out. Oh no, it's another long synopsis. Okay. Daniel's desperate for a fresh start. Mysterious figure slides a note under his door, offering the position of a groundskeeper at an estate. Alarm bells start ringing when he gets to Craven Manor. It's an abandoned mansion. Leaves cobwebs coat the marble floor. He has nowhere else to go, so he moves into the groundskeeper cottage, and then, ooh, a candle flickers to life from the tower window. Okay, Darcy Coates. I mean, that sounds actually kind of creepy. So we're gonna mark you as want to read. So now this whole shelf right here, this whole row. Kill Creek. This is another one that I have heard very mixed things about. Some of my friends love it. Some of my friends absolutely despise it. I think it's about a group of horror writers that go on a writing retreat. Let's see. Yeah, 3 other masters of horror invited to spend a night alone in this creepy ass house. What begins as a simple publicity stunt ends up a fight for survival. The entity they have awakened will follow them, torment them, threatening to make them a part of the bloody legacy of Kill Creek. I mean, this is want to read. Because we called it an entity and not a ghost, and because I think that that would be a very interesting, like a reality show situation. I would love to see that. I think that could be fun. And also, my local Barnes and Noble has a copy of this. I couldn't find a copy of it for such a long time, and I saw it not too long ago. I don't go as much as I used to, obviously, but make the occasional trip. Okay, What the hell did I just read? By David Wong. Is this dark comic sci-fi thriller set in the world of John dies at the end, and this book is full of spiders. I've never read any of those, but I have definitely seen them around. Let's see. John and Amy recount what seems like a fairly straightforward tale of a shape-shifting creature from another dimension that is stealing children and brainwashing their parents. Someone's lying, but someone is the narrator. Ooh. Oh, okay. Um, so the narrators are outright lying to you. The novel you're reading is a cover-up, and the true story reveals itself in the cracks of their hilariously convoluted and sometimes contradictory narrative. This sounds very interesting. I might have to check out this author a little bit more. So I'm just gonna open you in a new tab for later. Um, I love a good unreliable narrator, but I've never had a book tell me this narrator is unreliable. Okay, let's check the next one. The grip of it. I saw this on TikTok recently on like Barnes and Noble's. This is what's on our horror talk page, but I've never heard of it. I've never seen a TikToker person talk about it. A literary horror novel about a young couple who purchased their haunted house. Okay, so we have another haunted house story. Were those pop 2017? Because apparently he has a penchant for gambling. They're happy to leave their houses behind. Ocean and Forest has plans for the unsuspecting couple. Okay. Oh gosh, why are these synopses so long? I've already seen all the other books. Uh, okay, that one sounds interesting. It's on my want to read shelf. Um, I don't know. I must have just like scrolled past it at some point. I think I added it to my want to read shelf when I saw the TikTok about it, but I didn't know it was a haunted house story. For some reason, I thought it was a slasher. Okay, moving on to 2018. Before we do that, I'm gonna check chat. Hello, hello. Just got home from work. Hi. I'm wearing a Darcy coat jet, so I'm intrigued. What was the name of that one again? It was Craven Manor, I think is the one you're talking about. Just a warning, John dies at the end, uses the N-word uncensored. Thank you for the warning. Let's see what's in 2018. Stephen King, Elevation, I've heard was not good. Cabin at the End of the World, I talked about earlier in this. It's not good. I gave it 3 stars. It was more like a 2.5. I liked seeing queer people in horror. I like books with religious trauma. I thought it was fine. I would not recommend it or just recommend it. Like, it's fine. If you get a chance, check it out, but be aware that I felt like it was a little rambly. Baby Teeth, I've heard this is terrible. Like, straight up, I've heard it's terrible. Okay, I see Hannah. She's sweet. She is adorable in the eyes of her daddy. Um, but mommy stands in her way. Okay, Suzette loves her daughters. Okay, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That sounds a little questionable. Okay, I don't know about her. I don't know about that. The Hunger by Amakatsu. I have heard this one's very good. Tamsin Donner must be a witch. That's the only way to explain the misfortunes that have plagued the wagon train known as the Donner Party. Um, I think I wanted to read this one because it was a western, where I was like based on the West, and I really liked the Amakatsu book, The Hunger, or no, not The Hunger, The Deep, with the Titanic book. I thought that that one was very good, and even though I didn't finish it, I enjoyed it. I just thought it was a little long, but I think this one's a little shorter than The Deep. Okay, we have Dracul. This is a prequel to Dracula, inspired by the text and notes left behind by the author of Dracula, a supernatural thriller that reveals his origins. So, I have read the original Dracula. I thought it was very interesting. I liked it. I'm not that interested in like a prequel for it. I don't like whenever we like kind of go back on classics. Ghostwall by Sarah Moss. Never heard of this one ever. Intrusion of cities, but not far from civilization. Sylvie and her family are living as if they're ancient Britons. Okay. An anthropology course set to re-enter forms. Why are these synopses so long? Okay, they build ghost walls to ward off enemy invaders, ancestral skulls, spiritual connection to the past. I don't know about that. That sounds a little. It sounds interesting, but not like something that I would necessarily enjoy. So if you read Ghost Wall, let me know your thoughts in the comments of this video. Next, we have Foe, which I saw pop up on an ad, I think, for something. It was just like randomly recommended to me on the internet within the past couple of days. Set in the near future, they live a comfortable solitary life on their farm. A stranger from the city arrives, randomly selected to travel away from the farm. Oh, no. No, we're leaving someone with his wife. Um, I don't know about this one. This one sounds kind of spooky too. Maybe we'll add this to want to read. Yeah, we're gonna add it to want to read. Then we have We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix, which is the Grady Hendrix book that I was the most interested in. Now, currently, I don't really have much of an interest in Grady Hendrix's book at all. But this one is a 1990s book that follows a rock band who has broken up, and one of them has had like a very successful solo career, and it finds out that it's because the solo artist has sold all of the souls of the bandmates to the devil, I believe. Interested in the plot of this, but because it's Grady Hendrix, I don't think I will ever actually read it. I give every author, even authors that I don't like, I give them like 3 shots. I'm like, 3 strikes, you're out. And Grady Hendrix has had like two strikes so far, so I don't know. The Anomaly. I have heard of this one. If Indiana Jones lived in the X-Files, a rogue archaeologist. Okay, that sounds interesting. Okay, sure. Well, I'll buy it. I'll add you to want to read. You sound like a good time. I'm always down for like some archaeology, exploration, dark stuff like that. Okay, let's see. We have another Darcy Coates. She's just everywhere. Like how I don't know a single person who has read a Darcy Coates book that they weren't sent by a publisher. But like I'm kind of intrigued now. She only went off the trail for a moment. 22-year-old Eileen goes missing while hiking in the remote Ashlow forest. Her camera is discovered with bizarre photos taken after her appearance. They create a search party, and they believe they're not alone in the forest. Why does this sound like Wrong Turn? It does sound a little like Wrong Turn. This one sounds good too. Like I'm becoming a Darcy Coates fan, and I've never even read anything by this person. Okay. Alice in the Dead by Joseph Fink. I did not realize that this was a horror novel. It's like Welcome to Night Vale. So it's from the authors of Welcome to Night Vale. Fast-paced thriller about a truck driver searching across America for the wife she long assumed to be dead. This is not a story; it's a road trip. So sapphic road trip truck driving horror thriller. An otherworldly conflict being waged in the quiet corners of our nation's highway system, uncovering a conspiracy that goes beyond one missing woman. Sounds interesting. I could be interested in that. Um, Not interested enough to add it to my want to read shelf. I'm trying to be selective by what goes on there. But that sounds like a good time if you're intrigued by it. The House Guest. This one was one that I almost picked up again because I thought the cover was cute, and it's a short story collection by Amparo de Villa. Once again, comparing them to Shirley Jackson, but also by Kafka and Poe. So that's an interesting grouping. Leonora Carrington, who I've never read anything by, but like that's an interesting. How do those 4 go together? Like, what's that recipe result? Amparo de Villa's stories are terrifying, mesmerizing, and expertly crafted. You'll finish each one gasping for air. Limits of desire, paranormal, insomnia, and fear. She is a writer obsessed with obsession who makes nightmares come to life through the everyday. This sounds fun. I don't know what any of the stories are about, which I feel like a Goodreads synopsis should always do. Like in your synopsis, I should get an idea of like the content of some of your stories. But this one, because I have seen it and I almost picked it up, I think that one's gonna be like one I want to check out soon. Okay, we have 2019. How long has this taken? I've been live for like nearly an hour. Okay, 2019. We're gonna burn through these quick because I don't have much longer to do this. Stephen King, The Institute, not interested in. Stephen Chbosky, I have heard good things about and I'm interested in. It is very long, so I need to pick a time to read it where I can actually carve out time for it. Um, Sounds like a good spooky time. I've heard it's good and creepy. TikTok especially has been telling me to read this. Bunny by Mona Awad, I rated 4 stars. I talk about it in a video where I read like an Aries because it was a favorite of Kayla from Books and Lala. This one was nice and creepy, had some culty vibes, like if Mean Girls was like a thriller cult situation. So I would recommend Bunny if that sounds intriguing to you. The Invited by Jennifer McMahon. A chilling ghost story with a twist. Oh, this is the author that wrote The Winter People, which has been recommended to me several times. They build a haunted house. Okay. They discover the property has a dark and violent past, and Helen, as a former history teacher, becomes consumed with the local legend of someone who died there a century ago. That one sounds like a good time. We're gonna want to read that. Okay, Girl in Red, I have no interest in. The Need by Helen Phillips. Oh, Creepy Children. Creepy Children. And another long synopsis. Okay. Um, Ooh, An Intruder. No, I do not read home invasion books. I am terrified by that. If you're intrigued by home invasion books, there you go. That's one thing I cannot touch. Home invasion scares the shit out of me. Then we have The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, which recommended to me on Twitter by a couple of people. I didn't realize that this one. I thought this one came out literally in 2021 because I haven't heard anyone talk about this outside of 2021. Um, Someone named Mouse cleans out her dead grandma's house. Grandma was a hoarder. Oof. Her step grandfather's journal. I've heard this one would scare me because I have a phobia of dolls. So we're gonna want to read that. We have another Joe Hill, Full Throttle. Um, Fairy Tale Wonders. Oh, this is another short story collection. Okay. There's one about a librarian. That sounds interesting. Okay, moving down. Next, we have Wakenhurst. That's a confusing looking font. Wakenhurst by Michelle Paver. 1906, large manor house. Wake's End. How long is the synopsis? Oh my god. I feel like hire me to start writing synopses because I can't deal with how long some of these are. So historical fiction, is it a gothic novel? It sounds like a gothic novel. Walk of the local churchyard, spots an eye in the undergrowth. It's a painting, a doom taken from the church, depiction of hell. The doom keeps returning to mind. The stench of the fen permeates the house. Interesting. It's a terrifying ghost story, apparently. The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek, which I think are by the Good Mythical Morning people. I must have added this whenever it first came out because I used to be a huge Good Mythical Morning person. I believe that this is a thriller about best friends who like come back to the place where something bad happened. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I don't know if I'm still interested in Bleak Creek. If I can find it discounted, then maybe. I think if it's discounted, I might be into it. Okay. Oh, hi. I'm sorry if I missed you. That was like a couple minutes ago. Thank you for popping in. The Twisted Ones was the very first book I purchased and read in 2021. The doll adjacent horror is strong. Let's check it out then. Let's give it a shot. I can probably find it somewhere. The Luminous Dead on my TBR. I know I recommended it earlier. I accidentally opened something and I don't know how to minimize it. What is this? It's lagging. There we go. Are we still screen sharing? Yes. Um, Let's see what's going on. Sorry, it's just being a little glitchy on my end, friends. Okay, there we are. We are back. Okay, Luminista by Caitlin Starling. I have heard it as sapphic. I have heard that it's like cave spelunking. I've heard it's science fiction, but I don't know. Okay, a cave around a foreign planet. This one I am very interested in reading. I want to do it for maybe a vlog at some point, maybe. If you read this one, let me know your thoughts. But I know that this one was very popular. And then Cosmology of Monsters, which has been recommended to me a lot recently too. I remember seeing it in the store whenever it first came out, and I picked it up because I thought it looked interesting, and then I ended up not buying it. But recently, I've been seeing a lot more people talk about it. There's an immersive horror experience that the whole family operates, but the child can see monsters. So then, like everyone, it says he can see monsters, but he's the one that chooses to let them in. So I think that would be interesting. I like books with like complex family issues. Okay, 2020. Here we go. Mexican Gothic. I was correct. I knew it was going to be on here. I like Mexican Gothic a lot. You can see I gave it 4 stars, which honestly probably should be 5. I should bump it up. Let's bump it up right now. I loved Mexican Gothic. I thought it was great. And also, we're gonna bump down Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I don't remember giving it 5 stars. Mexican Gothic, I think, is great. It's a gothic horror novel about a woman who goes to visit her cousin because her cousin sent her a letter saying, "Help me. The family that I married into is like trying to kill me." And it's like spooky, atmospheric, paranormal stuff's going on. It was great. It was fantastic. Please read Mexican Gothic. Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Like I said, I don't remember giving it 5 stars. I probably did whenever I read it, so that's on me. This one is about a group of women who run a book club, and there's like a sexy neighbor who moves in next door, but it turns out he was a vampire, and he starts targeting the people in the book club. This one had some very graphic horror. I will admit that like the horror was graphic. Um, and it did scare me. It unnerved me a little bit, but I don't know that I would recommend it anymore. Home Before Dark, I don't have any interest in reading anything by Riley Sager after Final Girls. I thought that there were some comments made in there about Indian burial grounds that I did not appreciate. I thought was uncalled for. Um, this one is about a woman who like goes back to her family home. And I believe that her father wrote a book about their house being haunted, and she thought that it was like a fiction book, but it turned out to actually be nonfiction. Let's see. It rivaled the Amityville Horror in its popularity. Today, Maggie is a historical of old homes. I've heard very good things about Home Before Dark. I've heard very mediocre things about Home Before Dark. I don't know where I fall. If It Bleeds by Stephen King. This is a novella. I like the cover. I like a cat. Um, so I don't know what. Talking about novellas. His range is on full display. Okay, so it's a short story collection. Um, and there on the screen you can see it goes over each story. Um, I don't know. Like I said, let me know if King has gotten better about stuff like that because I'm willing to read more and give it a shot, right? I don't ever want to write anyone off. I'm always open, usually, to reading things that authors have written outside of like their early days. So let me know if you're a King fan, if he's gotten better in the lines of that kind of stuff that we don't like. Okay, The Only Good Indians. I don't have to say anything at all about this. If you're on my channel, read The Only Good Indians. I am not elaborating further. Year of the Witching on my TBR for this month. I DNF'd it originally because it wasn't what I was looking for, but it is a dark fantasy horror about a woman who lives in this almost like puritanical society, and she realizes that like she may be a witch. She unleashes this kind of like plague of witches that come from this creepy forest. It's a good time. I need to finish it this month. I thought it was great. Devolution. Devolution? I just learned that this, I think, is a Bigfoot novel. I literally heard about this today, a first-hand account of the Rainer Sasquatch Massacre. So we're gonna want to read You're Coming Home With Me. Plain Bad Heroines was recommended to me whenever I posted a tweet asking for books about horror movies. I think it's about a theater troupe who's like putting on a play of this like murder haunting situation. So you get half that in the book and then half the actual murder haunting situation in the book. Um, don't know that I'm interested in it, but it sounds like it could be intriguing. Tender is the Flesh. Read Tender is the Flesh. I recommended it so many times this month, much like The Changeling. I will continue to recommend it. Could do a full review video for this one. Set in a near future society where a plague, because we don't know if it's real or not, has infected all animal meat. And instead of going vegan, humans decide they're going to eat each other. And it's really fucked up and gross. Survival Song by Paul Tremblay. Like I said, I don't really have much interest in reading Paul Tremblay anymore. Insidious rabies-like virus that spreads by saliva. The disease has a terrifying incubation period of an hour. Oh no, nope, 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 nope. I don't, nope. I don't know. I feel weird after, COVID and everything. I feel very odd about reading books about like actual plagues and like widespread things. Okay, The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. Maybe this is why the Twisted Ones has come so recommended, was because The Hollow Places came out last year and people are discovering T. Kingfisher, maybe. Um, Pray They Are Hungry. Kara finds these words in a mysterious bunker that she's discovered behind a hole in the wall of her uncle's home. Doesn't sound as interesting as The Twisted Place. Is that what it's called? The Twisted Place? The Hollow Ones? The other T. Kingfisher book. Yeah. Probably would read the other one over this one. Mallory by Josh Malerman. Bird Box sequel. So I don't feel like I need to go into the plot of Mallory so much as Bird Box. Bird Box is like, everyone knows what Bird Box is, but it's a horror novel. Basically, there are these creatures that if you look at them, they will make you kill yourself. So people are trying to survive. Everyone's blindfolded. Kind of moving around the world blind. You probably saw the Netflix film. I don't think Bird Box needed a sequel. I am kind of mad that this book exists, so we're going to scroll past and go on to 2021 and see what's going on for this month, or this year. Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is another one that, like I said, he's on thin ice. I need to remove all of his books from my TBR. This is the one that I'm currently the most interested in reading. I feel like if anything were to be a 5-star out of his other books, it would be this one. Follows a group of final girls who survive like their own massacres, and then they start to get massacred one by one. We have Later by Stephen King. The son of a struggling single mother. He wants an ordinary childhood, but he's born with unnatural abilities. His mom urged him to keep secret. He can. Oh, I lost it. He discovers when an NYPD detective draws him into the pursuit of a killer who has threatened to strike from beyond the grave. Sounds. I always like Stephen King's plots. I just don't like his execution. And it's not just the stuff I said earlier. I have a problem with the Stephen King writing style where it's like rambling or repeating ourselves over and over. Next we have Jennifer McMahon, The Drowning Kind. Jennifer McMahon is someone, like I said earlier, that I am interested in pursuing. Give me a second, my screen has frozen. Sorry. So I can't read you the synopsis of this, but Jennifer McMahon, it seems, writes very weird books. And I'm always down for some weird books. There we go, we're back. Be careful what you wish for. A social worker receives 9 calls from her older sister. Her sister's episodes, manic and increasingly out of touch with reality. She's dead, drowned in a pool at their grandmother's estate. Jax arrives to go through her sister's things. She learns that her sister was researching the history of their family and the property. A far deeper past. 37-year-old newlywed Ethel Monroe hopes desperately for a baby. Okay, we're adding to want to read, and I'm not reading any further because I don't want to get spoiled. But I said in another video that I did earlier this month that I like spooky baby horror. Next, we have My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is my favorite author. However, I'm going to say something controversial, and that's that I don't know if this book should be on this list. I do not think that this is Stephen Graham Jones's best by any means. I think it is the one that the most people are likely to enjoy, though. I think that more people are going to enjoy My Heart is a Chainsaw than they would any of his other books. But I feel like you need to be familiar with his writing style and his backwards first. So don't make this the first one that you pick up. We follow a native girl named Jade who believes that her small town that is becoming gentrified is going to become victim to a slasher, and she takes steps to try and prevent that, but no one believes her. So I did enjoy it. As you can see, I give it 5 stars. However, I don't think that it's anywhere near Stephen Graham Jones's best. I think it's just the one that most people are going to like. Then we have The Last House on Needless Street. Serial killer, stolen child, revenge, death in an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. I have seen this one all over Instagram lately, like all over Instagram. The Book of Accidents. This one I have read the synopsis of a couple of times. I don't really have too much interest in it. I have it on my want to read shelf as like a on my radar thing. I know this one has to do with like mines and a family curse. Chasing the boogeyman, I am not interested in. Don't know why exactly. I just don't think it sounds interesting at all. It's like I think it's a true crime, or at least it's been pitched a lot as a true crime, or maybe it's like a novel written in true crime style. Then we have All's Well by Mona Awad, which I didn't know was horror. I knew it was a thriller. Shakespeare vibes, like Shakespeare theater troops, theater professor suffering chronic pain. Um, Someone's life is a waking nightmare, acting career, chronic back pain. This one sounds interesting. Like I said, I liked Bunny, and I'm interested to see more of what Mona Arad writes, but I have not jumped in any further than Bunny. And now we're coming to the end of the list. We have Summer Sons. This one is one that I want to read. I think it sounds really interesting. I've heard it's like Ghosts meets like Fast and Furious. I believe this is the one that was pitched as Ghost meets Fast and Furious. I think. Let me check if it'll load. I think this one's also queer. So this one is one that I'm very interested in. We have The Death of not Sarah Lawrence, it's by The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. I don't know, is Sarah Lawrence a person? This one I actually almost picked up today. I think the cover looks really cool, and I don't know anything past the cover, and I don't want to know anything past the cover. Then we have Nothing But Blackened Teeth, which the cover scares the fuck out of me. Everyone has been loving this recently. Oh, we scrolled down way too far. Well, let's go back up. Nothing But Blackened Teeth. This one sounds so good. It's steeped in Japanese folklore. Haunted house, mansion, spooky venue. This is perfect wedding venue for a group of thrill-seeking friends. It turns into a nightmare. The ghost bride with a black smile and a hungry heart. Tell me that does not sound fucking fantastic. And then A Dowry of Blood, which I'm actually reading this month. This one is a retelling of Dracula's wives, from the perspective of one of the wives. So I will let you know what I think of that one whenever I actually read it. And that is the end of the list. It says, which modern horror books are you obsessed with? Let us know in the comments below. So we're going to stop sharing this, we're going to exit out, and we're going to do the outro of this video and talk about what we learned today. Give it a second, it's loading. My computer is being very slow. Alright, here we go. Hello, for the people who stayed for more than an hour. What we learned today, I wanted to see what I thought about like the most popular books on Goodreads. So that's why I said like, can we trust Goodreads? I think that for the most part, it's hard to say because my reading tastes obviously don't align with the general public, and the general public is the people who tend to have Goodreads. Not everyone on Goodreads is like a book review person, you know what I mean? A lot of people that I know who don't even read a lot. They're readers, but they're not like reviewers or Instagrammers or TikTokers or anything. use Goodreads to track their reading. So I think that out of all of the books today, I want to do like an exact count because I was so not keeping track. I am interested in a good majority of them. A lot of the most popular books of Goodreads I clearly have not read. Um, and I don't know that I'm super interested in a lot of them. I noticed a lot of repeat authors, and that's not what I was hoping for out of the list. I was hoping we would get um, kind of a more tailored, more specific recommendations. But I mean, you can't argue with the fact that these authors are some of the most popular horror authors out there, like Paul Tremblay, Stephen King, Joe Hill. Um, I would have put maybe more YA and middle grade in there. I was genuinely surprised that if we're talking about like the best horror, that we did not include middle grade and YA in this. However, I know that the rest of like the horror week on Goodreads, there was an article about YA. So let me know if you want to see my reaction to that. I just thought this would be a fun little live show to do. So comment question of the day. If you hang out until the end of the video, hi. Thank you for sticking around. Let me know what other books that were published within the past 5 years you would say are like the best horror books. Off the top of my head, I would say probably Hide and Seeker by Dr. Herman definitely deserve to be on the list. Um, yeah, let's do that. And if you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, you don't have an answer, let me know you made it here by leaving me a yellow heart or a smiley face emoticon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you tomorrow with some more spooky videos. Okay, cool. Bye. Oh, wait, I need to read comments before we go. And see, Luminous Dead was so good. Such atmospheric horror. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Someone said I read it. Though you read the Twisted Ones when you were in high school. Sounds like that movie Frightening. Playing Bad Heroines is about a movie adaptation of a book, The Hauntings of a Boarding School, with those two timelines, but it's also barely set in the boarding school. Thank you for correcting me. Um, Final Girl Support Group also has comments about Indigenous burial grounds. And there's homia. Not homia. I was still reading. Sorry. There is homophobia. Okay, so we might not be picking up the Final Girl Support Group. Okay, that's the real end of the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Okay, bye. Are we still live? Are we not still live? I clicked on the broadcast. I think we might still be live.